Hey guys, I'm Joey. I'm a business and psychology major at UB.
I'm Becca. I'm an exercise science major.
And I'm Liv, and I'm a nursing major.
So today is December 14th, and it is 72 degrees out in the city of Buffalo, New York today. So very unusual and beautiful outside. We were going to be doing the podcast outside, but it looks like it's going to start raining soon, so we decided to come into the governor's dorms, and we're going to talk about some pretty cool stuff today.
So what we're going to be talking about is, kind of our past and current projects that we've done this year, or this semester rather. And our past one dealt with discrimination in clubs during the 60s and 70s in Buffalo, primarily with African Americans and women. Clubs such as the Golden Tee Golf Club formed as a way to try to help these people who are being discriminated against to have their own clubs, which then caused later issues with other, clubs such as the Delaware Park Club and different, Buffalo Athletic Club had some issues as well. And the Buffalo Athletic Club wasn't a golf club. It was a social club for whites only, which connects more to today's two clubs that we're dealing with, which are the Junior League and the Garrett Club. Both are female-only clubs based in Buffalo, New York, and they promote women in the community in various ways. The Junior League does a lot of volunteer work, and the Garrett Club does a lot of artistic and theater and type of thing.
As Olivia said, clubs in the 60s and 70s were nothing like clubs today. Women and people of minority races were oftentimes denied entry to these private clubs. The University at Buffalo Archives contains a plethora of information on these past clubs and other organizations that work for equality within these clubs. Organizations such as the CCHR, or the Citizens Council on Human Relations, work to level the field and rid these clubs of discrimination. In 1973, the CCHR urged Club Commissioner Robert Penn to force the Buffalo Golf Club to accept African Americans as they were using a public park, the Grover Cleveland Golf Course. The Buffalo Golf Club claimed that they did not outright deny blacks, but it was thought that they did in fact discourage blacks from even applying to begin with. In an article in the Courier Express, William Penn declared that he would investigate the club's discrimination, but he also added that not having blacks in the club wasn't exactly a crime to begin with. That summer, the Buffalo Evening News reported that Norman Goldfarb, the director of the CCHR, reported that clubs such as the Buffalo Golf Clubs have devices that discourage blacks from even applying, thus making these clubs unfair. For a solution, Goldfarb suggested that there would be a 3-year suspension, a membership limit to be placed on these all-white clubs in effort to even the racial numbers. In time, New York State began to take note of these discriminatory policies and chose to step in and help. Goldfarb contacted the New York State Attorney General in a letter asking that he prevent clubs with discriminatory policies. The Attorney General replied with support for the CCHR, but informed him that he himself could do nothing, but he would pass the information on. Just 5 days later, in a letter from the New York State Department of Licenses, he mailed a letter to the manager of the Buffalo Yacht Club, saying that the state refused to give the club their liquor license due to the club's outward discrimination on public grounds. As a result to all this turmoil, it wasn't uncommon for minorities to deny their acceptance to these clubs because of discriminatory pasts and to join clubs that respected their rights, such as the Garrett Club for women and the Golden Tee Club for minorities.
Yeah, so, I had a lot of experience too, Becca, with, working in the archives with these types of clubs in Buffalo and how they were discriminatory. I specifically focused on the Buffalo Athletic Club, but, I'm not going to go into too much detail because basically they had the same situation with the CCHR, doing negative publicity towards them. So I'm going to start talking about something a little bit more modern than the 60s and 70s, but still, there is an air of discrimination in these private clubs in Buffalo and, all over the world, but, it's definitely improved, and the remainder of this podcast is going to focus on two clubs specifically that were mentioned before, the Garrett Club and Junior League of Buffalo, which are all female, and they're different in that sense because they are all female and they have been around since the early 1900s. But I actually have a connection to a woman that belongs to two of these clubs. My mom's best friend, Karen Speranza, belongs to the Garrett Club and Junior League. Karen's originally from Buffalo, but she's lived all over the country, including Boston, Chicago, and Connecticut. And she eventually came back to Buffalo with her husband because they're both from here, and they wanted to raise their kids here. And I'm going to pass it over now to Liv to talk about our interview with Karen about the Garrett Club.
All right. So we kind of talked to Karen about the Garrett Club and the Junior League, but I'm going to focus on the Garrett Club. So according to Karen, the Garrett Club in particular, was formed by women and for women. It was formed in the 1920s, and women, primarily women involved in women's voting, equality, and other women's issues, would meet in their homes to discuss relevant topics openly and freely without any other types of males around to influence opinions. This encouraged them to found their own club in order to be able to do this. So the Garrett Club was founded in order for these women to sit and freely and openly and comfortably discuss their own opinions in their lives. The Garrett Club was a social club founded in 1929 by a group of high-class women as a protest to all the white male private clubs in the city that they were obviously not allowed to be part of. The building was designed by famous architect E.B. Green and still stands today at 91 Cleveland Avenue next to an all-girls high school called Nardin Academy. Karen had told Joey that the Garrett Club's purpose is to provide a warm environment for Buffalonian women to exercise their creativity, familiarize themselves with the arts, and be used as a space for meetings about philanthropy in the city of Buffalo. Members can also host private events such as small weddings, showers, and cocktail parties, at which both male and female guests may attend to the clubhouse. Most of the members are wealthy women, but there's diversity in terms of ethnicity and religion. Many members are Jewish, Hindu, and Buddhist, as well as Christian. The Garrett Club was set up to counteract the many clubs that outwardly denied women as members. You can recall earlier in the semester we read an excerpt from Nancy Camp, her article that detailed gender discrimination in private clubs throughout the United States. In one case, a woman named Mary Ann Warfield was granted the full membership to the Peninsula Golf Club and Country Club as per her divorce agreement. The club's own bylaws stated that women were not allowed to be the primary name on a membership, but the court system overruled the bylaws, and Miss Warfield was able to maintain her membership. She eventually sued the Peninsula Golf and Country Club on grounds of gender discrimination and won a large sum of money. So not only is this a problem, but this isn't a problem in just Buffalo, it's a problem faced by women all over the country in the discrimination of private clubs.
So I'm going to talk more about Junior League now, and Becca has some information about it too. Karen is an active member of Junior League, and from now on in the podcast I'll refer to it as JLB, Junior League of Buffalo. Junior League is a national organization with a Buffalo chapter, and a shortened version of their mission statement is that they are women pledged to volunteerism in the city that they're from, and that they're catalysts for change in their city. JLB is much more diverse in terms of socioeconomic status than the Garrett Club, as any woman with a passion for volunteer work can join the club, whereas at the Garrett Club it was by invitation only, and since most of the members are wealthy, probably most of their friends are wealthy, and they're inviting other wealthy women to join. And that's not a bad thing, it's just a fact that most members of the Garrett Club are wealthy.
So, the Buffalo chapter of Junior League was founded in 1919, and since then, not much has changed. Once again, the University at Buffalo Archives posts various Junior League newsletters from the 80s. In 1981, the goal of Junior League Buffalo was to research and assert positions on various issues and to advocate in city and state legislatures to become leaders in the community and to help to inform citizens, women in particular, of how to understand and get involved in the city. They work in several areas, including the arts, downtown, child advocacy, and in social justice. They have set up various programs to help to support the city's youth, physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially. Later, in 1984, the club was up to 450 active members who totaled more than 70,000 volunteer hours in that year alone. The president of the club even traveled to the White House to meet with Junior League leaders from around the nation in order to better Buffalo's program and to learn how to allocate their funds to the betterment of Buffalo in terms of education, historical restoration, and to provide information on rape and abuse for women. Since then, JLB has done more to help to improve the city.
So JLB's sole purpose is to improve the city of Buffalo, and Karen has been actively involved in several of JLB's events. I'll talk about two in particular. She participates monthly in a program called Life Coach, and this program teaches impoverished single women that are mothers some social skills and attempts them to get them back on their feet, either by getting a job or affordable housing. And Karen feels that her work in the one-on-one programs such as Life Coach are the most rewarding of all the JLB events. She told me that last month she unfortunately couldn't attend her Life Coach session, and one of her fellow JLB members that did attend said that several of the children that Karen deals with directly cried because they missed her so much, and I found that really touching because, you know, everybody has a soft spot for kids. And she says there really is a connection with her Life Coach members, both the moms and the kids, and that she absolutely loves what JLB refers to as hands-on endeavors. So I thought that was, you know, really nice that she does stuff directly with the women of Buffalo that are struggling.
I think that's really nice.
It is. I mean, she doesn't have to work, and she's fortunate enough to have be pretty wealthy, and I think it's really great that she takes time out of her day every month and does these events with Junior League. But another event at Junior League, this is like their signature event, is called the Decorators Show House, and Karen has participated in it every year since she came back to Buffalo, and she's even chaired it before. So every other year, a committee of JLB members looks for a mansion in the city of Buffalo, and the mansion must meet two requirements. One, it must contain a lot of history, and two, it must be in desperate need of cosmetic repair. So not necessarily like, you know, the typical work that you need to do in an old city mansion like electrical and plumbing, but they do more cosmetic things. And once the house is purchased, chosen and purchased by the JLB, various interior designers from Buffalo bid on the rooms of the house to renovate. To date, JLB's show house is one of the best run in the nation and has earned over $4 million for various charity organizations locally in Buffalo since its birth. And I am actually fortunate enough to know one of these decorators, my mom and Karen's friend, Chris Hempel. He's an interior designer. And I've actually assisted him throughout his work at one of the show houses. It was the O'Shea Mansion, which was held in 2013. That was 2 show houses ago because they do it every other year. The next one will be in 2017. So Chris is actually a resident of the city of Buffalo. He lives right by the Richardson complex off Forest Avenue in the Elmwood district. And I've known him my whole life. He's one of my mom's best friends. They grew up together, and then he and Karen became friends through my mom. So over the past weekend when Chris was over at my house, I talked to him about his work with the Decorator Show House and JLB's efforts to improve the city of Buffalo. And I thought Chris's perspective would be interesting since he actually lives in the city and benefits directly from any social or economic improvement. And he basically said that he enjoys participating in the show house because he gets to use his interior design degree, which is something he loves to do and is fortunate enough to do for a living. And it improves the city that he loves so much at the same time. He said that when he does do a room in the show house, that many of his friends from college that stayed in Fort Lauderdale and family from out of town come to Buffalo just to see his work. And that means that hotel rooms are being filled, restaurants have filled tables, and money is being spent at the various shops and bars along Allen, Elmwood, Chippewa, and even the area malls, for example. Chris, obviously, he's not the only decorator that is part of the show house. There's multiple rooms in each of these houses, and many local interior designers bid on them. So this has to be true for many decorators, that people come to Buffalo and spend money here to, participate in the show house, and each ticket is, I think last year was like maybe $25 to walk through, and all the proceeds go to charity. So Chris also receives many jobs from doing the JLB show house every year. So he will have his business card out for people that like his work, and they'll call him. So that's also good for the city. So a local person that owns his own business is, doing well and is benefiting from the JLB show house. And he claims that many of his best clients discovered him many years ago at his first show houses. And he's done everything at a show house, from a sitting room, a living room, bedrooms. A few years ago, he did an attic space. More than a few years ago, he did an in-law suite above a carriage house at a show house on LeBron in the city. And he's just really talented, and, it's really good for the city. So next show house will be in 2017 in the spring, and I think you guys should really consider coming. And if you're listening to this podcast, look out for it, because it's really good for the city, and it's interesting. I mean, it's this big, huge house, and there's all kinds of different styles, and it's really, really cool. I enjoy going to it every time they hold it.
I think it's really great what Junior League and what people like Chris have done for the city. Fortunately, there is this focus on volunteerism and improving the city rather than inequalities that were more the focus in the 60s and 70s. Clubs like Junior League and Garrett Club only have up to go now in improving the city of Buffalo and making for a better community for everybody.
So to wrap up, I feel like, these clubs, had discriminatory practices and, have some underlying discriminatory practices today. But overall, in modern day, these clubs really are doing good things for the city. I mean, Junior League does countless things with volunteer work, and Garrett Club is a space for women in the city to go and, celebrate the arts and host parties and talk about philanthropy. So I really do think that the idea of a private club is positive for the city of Buffalo in today's world.
Yeah, I can't help but agree.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.